video today is for my 3D design class for the House of Cards. This assignment is posted on Google Classroom, and this video is to help you with the structure of the armature for that particular assignment. What I do not want to see are houses made out of cards. What I expect to see are cards that look like they're spilling out onto the floor and maybe moving upward again, or they're coming up and out like a splash, like a fountain. You can have them go into a swirl, and what we need to focus on is the action of movement, and also, and most importantly, the principle of movement, which means your eye travels the whole composition. Lastly, the structure has to be sound so that your card design stands up. So there's a couple things I need to cover. First of all, materials for an armature. Because card stock on a deck of cards that are for playing, they're very thin. They also have a shiny coating, which makes it difficult for gluing and for attaching to some bulky armature. You don't want to do a bulky structure inside. Instead, you want something very thin. So I'm going to talk about those kind of materials today. What my in-class kids are going to be using is kind of a sheet metal. It's real flimsy. It looks like paper. But I'm going to cut a slice of this, and this is what I would have them do in class. Tin snips. If you have anything like this, please be careful of the sharp edges. Make sure you're wearing gloves. I'm not, just because I know it's going to be a short thing here, and I could be very careful with it. Now, this is also very flimsy. Anything that you use, maybe it's poster board or cardboard or something of that structure, flimsy is okay as long as it can be folded. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you this folded piece. Notice it's flimsy on one side, but now it's not. It's not flimsy at all. It's really stiff here because of that being folded in half. Once I folded it in half, I split the ends, which means that now that fold makes it strong, but now my cards can go in different directions. So I'm asking you to have, and I just have paper here so you can see what you can do with your cards. I don't have playing cards that I'm going to use on this demo because they're just not going to stick fast enough. So instead I'm going to use double stick tape. I'm asking you guys to roll them. And how you roll them can be very interesting. First of all, you can roll them into a tube, which is kind of like a flat base roll. However, if you do an angle roll, that has an interesting curve to it. It has an interesting shadow, which gives you that value, those value changes, which makes it very interesting. Once you have all of your decided rolled pieces, please set them aside, but keep some flat. Now, if I'm ready for gluing, what I have to do is glue it on one side. But notice what's happening on the other side. I still see this. So you're going to glue a second one with the first one. It should be rolled the same way. Another way to do this is glue them together, roll them, and leave a pocket inside so you can stick that onto your armature and you can do your final gluing there. What the benefit of this is, first of all, you can see how this looks like two cards, but you can make the illusion of one card. The other thing you can do is hide that armature completely. Once your armature is hidden in there, the illusion comes to be realistic. So another thing that you can think of in your armature, your structure here, if I were to slice sideways and fold out my little slice and maybe have another one at a different angle. And I'm just throwing out some stuff here so you can see all the different options you can have. I can now have my card on the side here. So I should probably be taping some of this stuff. And of course, I am running out of my double stick tape, so I'm going to do small pieces. Not easy to cut with a tin snip, but I'll show you some elegance of this simple design. Make sure your cards look like they're going to go everywhere. And I'm glad I'm using white for my card color, simply because I think it would be easier for you to see in the video to see how many different ways you can get these things to go. And I gotta roll this one. I think rolling has more movement in your work, and it also gives you some really good ideas of where your pieces can go and hide. Let's say, now I have them going in two different directions, but I could fold these and make them look like they're just hovering. And I'm going to cut a little bit more of my tin snip here with my tin snip and twist this little piece of metal, and it'll change what direction it goes in. See how that changed it? I don't know if you can, but they're in two different directions. Now I have options with these other little parts. I can bend this one this way, I can bend it the other way. So having these little tabs, really, and this is what they look like tabs on your work, actually gives you more directions of how your card can change location. Let's say you didn't have any sheet metal and you had a card stock like this. This is just a plain old mat board, which I'm going to tear up. The same thing applies. You got to be careful with some mat board. If you fold it, it can break, but the same thing applies. The other thing, once you have your decided shape, you can play with what's happening in that armature. You can have all your cards on one side, if I can get that, on one side that look like they're floating over to one group like a curve. So can you also do this with your armature? Sure. You got to play with it. If it's not strong enough, you're going to fold it so it has more structure. Okay, but you could fold it almost any direction. Okay, so it has structure in different directions. Do you have a base for this assignment? I've seen in the past students have put a base, but it really just gives you one kind of limitation in having a base. So I would do the base at the very end if you felt like things weren't really keeping together. But on the base, you want to cover it with cards so that it looks as though the cards were all there and that's what's holding up the rest of the cards. Lastly, when you have a bunch of playing cards, how to make multiples. So I'm going to show you this. I got a stack of paper, but if I cut off a corner and I lay my stack of cards down on the paper, on the tabletop here, if I can put them apart, you can see that what I took off. Now if I stack them in different ways, what happens is that this little guy, this little corner, can be tucked in and look like he's a third card when really he's a part of a card. This guy here, he can be part of another card tucked in, and you don't really have to have a full card in your deck to look like you have many. So I only cut 2 cards right there, and it looks like I have 4. Okay? So you can give that illusion that you have more cards than needed. When would you need that? If you take a stack of cards and you slice them in half, and I'm going to cut a little wedge out, and let's say you need, that wasn't a very good wedge cut, but there you go. I got a wedge. Let me take that one off. Shoot. Okay, I got a wedge. I can put my armature down through the center of a stack and then replace a top card on top of it and a bottom card underneath, and it could hold the illusion that this stack has no armature inside. So sometimes you can cheat on what kind of cards you need really for this assignment, how many you need, and to get the best illusion, you got to use these tricks. The other thing I wanted to mention, do not get frustrated with drying time. It's going to take time for these to dry, but tip is sandpaper your surfaces where you add your glue before you add your glue. If the surface doesn't feel like it's going to accept the glue very well, take a little bit of either nail polish remover or water and saturate it, let it soak in a little bit, let it air dry, and then try it again. Please don't use nail polish remover with an adhesive. You'll have a toxic nightmare. Please don't do that. And always use nail polish in an air ventilated space. Now, when you're drying them, when you're gluing them, you can use clamps, little tiny paper clips, clothespins. Those will help you go a long way and not get frustrated. You can get on to other homework and things like that. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you have actually a great time doing this assignment. You can think outside the box with how you cut your cards if you do cut them. But remember, your assignment is all about movement. So just kind of plan where you think you want to go with this. Coat hangers, wire, cardstock, metal, all those are good things for armatures. Okay, well, good luck, and I can't wait to actually see these. Take pictures around the surface, all sides, when you send those up to me. Alrighty, have a good night. Bye-bye.